If you are the only one showing up to this co-parenting thing, then this episode is specifically for you. I'm Marcie Shaoul, this is The Long Game. And let me say something that I think you need to hear before we go any further. You can't change them. I know, you've tried. You've been reasonable when they were not. You've kept your voice level when they escalated, and you've proposed solutions. You've given ground. You have sent the calm email. You've read the books. You've done everything that you can think of to make this work, and they are still not trying. And the question that comes up and sits underneath all of that effort is, how long can I just keep going? What's the point of me doing this work when they're not doing any of it? And it's the right question. And I want to give you an honest answer. You can't change them, but you can change the system. And those are not the same thing. Here's what I mean. Co-parenting is not a partnership that needs equal effort to function. It's a system, and systems can be shifted by one person if that person is consistent, intentional, and focused on the right things. And I want to show you a way of thinking about this that I use with my clients and that I use with myself when I was in the middle of my own co-parenting story. And it's called the circles of control. Picture 3 concentric circles, a bit like a target. The outer circle is everything that you can't control. Your co-parent's behavior, their attitude, whether they follow through, whether they show up, whether they respond to the message you've sent, whether they ever choose to engage with this process. That's all in your outer circle. And I want to be honest with you, it may well stay there. People change sometimes, but your children's well-being can't depend on that. The middle circle is what you can influence, not control, but influence. The tone of your voice, the tone of your communications, the structure of the arrangements, the environment your children will return to when they come back to you, the way you talk or choose not to talk about their other parent. These things are not fully in your hands, but how you show up in them shapes the system over time, and it shapes what your children observe about how grown-ups behave. The inner circle, the smallest circle, is what you can control entirely. Your own responses, your own regulation, your own choices in the moment when something infuriating happens. The decision about what to send and how to send it. The decision to keep going, not for your co-parent, not for validation, but for your kids. That's your circle. That is yours and nobody else's. I want to spend some time on the outer circle because I think this is where a lot of people lose enormous amounts of energy without even realizing it. When you spend time trying to change the outer circle, when you spend time trying to change your co-parent, you're sending the email that explains your position for the 4th time, when you're trying again to make them see the impact, when you escalate hoping that finally they will respond differently, you are not wasting your effort in the sense of doing nothing, but you're actively draining the resource that you need for the inner circle, because every unit of energy that goes into the outer circle is a unit that does not go into you and your children, your home, your own regulation, and that's exhausting. This is not about giving up on the outer circle, but it is about being strategic about it. Put your energy where it can move something. And the place it can move something is always ultimately in the inner circle. Now, here's the thing that most parents who are carrying this alone find hardest to hear. This work that feels like it's going nowhere, the regulated response, the calm message, the boundary held without escalation, isn't wasted, right? It's building something, not in your co-parent, but in you and in your children. And that's what I want you to hear. Your children are watching, not in the way that should make you self-conscious, but in the way that children do. They absorb things instinctively, always. They're watching how you handle difficult things. They are learning what it looks like to stay steady when someone around you is not. They are building their own model of how to behave under pressure, and that model comes from you. That's not pressure, that's power. And it's power that belongs entirely to you, regardless of what your co-parent does or doesn't do. Let me tell you where to focus your energy when the other side will not cooperate. Focus on what comes back. What does your home feel like when your children return to you? Is it a place of recovery, or does it continue the tension that they may have just come from? That's something that you control entirely. Make it the place that they can breathe. Make the 20 minutes after a handover the same every time. Low and warm, low stakes, not debriefing, not asking careful questions, just being there, steady. Snacks on the table. Snacks, guys, snacks, always snacks. Focus on the communication that you send, not the response that you get. Your job is to send clear, child-focused communication about arrangements and what the children need. Whether they respond, how they respond, when they respond, that's in the outer circle. But send the message and then let go of what happens to it. Easier said than done, believe me, I know. But I want you to focus on the language you use about your co-parent in front of your children, because that matters almost more than anything else in the day-to-day. Not because you have to stay positive, things that you don't feel, but because the absence of negative things is a real gift. And when you don't make your children the audience for your frustration, you free them from a role that they should never have been given. And that is a concrete thing you can do in your inner circle starting today. Focus on the long game. Not this week, not this argument, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now. The kids watching you right now will be adults one day. They'll have their own hard things to navigate. They'll draw on what they learned from watching you. So give them something that's worth drawing on. And focus on sustainability, because this is the one that people skip and then we burn out, right? So the kind of sustained effort you're making, showing up consistently when maybe the other side is not, staying regulated when the provocation is real, keeping your kids at the center when everything in you wants to be understood is genuinely exhausting. You know, it's legitimate to find it hard. It's definitely not a sign that you're doing it wrong. So get support, not from your children, not from your co-parent, but from adults who can hold some of this with you. A friend or a therapist, a group, a program with a structure that tells you where to put your effort on a hard week. The parents who I see do this work most successfully over the long term are almost always the ones who have built a support system around themselves so they're not carrying it alone. If you want a structure for this, a way of working through your own circles, identifying where you are spending energy that could be redirected and building a plan that is yours and that does not depend on anyone else's cooperation, that work is inside the Co-Parenting Method program. The link's below. But here is what I need you to know right now before you close this video. The fact that you are the only one showing up is not evidence that this is pointless. It's evidence that your children have one parent who is doing the work, one parent who is thinking about the long game, one parent who chose to spend 15 minutes of their day understanding this rather than staying stuck. And that parent is you, and your children have you. So keep going, not for your co-parent, but for your children. I want to spend a moment on what getting support actually looks like, because I think this often gets left quite vague, and so people don't do it. Support is not just about therapy, although therapy definitely is valuable and I would never discourage it. Support is any structure that means you are not carrying this on your own. So a friend that knows enough about you, about your situation, that you can send them the message before you respond to it. My friend was Sarah, and my other friend was Alison in all of this. A parent or a sibling who can take the children for 2 hours on a particularly hard week so you can recover. A program or a group that gives you a framework for the decisions you face, so you're not always having to construct the response from scratch under pressure. The parents who sustain this work over the long term almost always have one thing in common. They have built something around themselves. Not just a support group in the formal sense necessarily, just, structure. That means that they don't always have to hold it alone. People that they can rely on, because alone is too much. Alone is a thing that burns us out. And I want to say something else about the inner circle before I finish, because I think it really is worth naming directly. The inner circle is not just about what you do in the difficult moments. It's also about who you are becoming through this process, about what you do to support yourself, to look after yourself. And that might sound like a strange thing to say in a practical episode. So let me explain a little bit more about what I mean. Parents who do this work over time, who stay focused on what they can control, who build the ecosystem, who go for a run, who see their friends, who go to the cinema, who keep coming back to the 25-year picture instead of just the next message. Those parents change, not in spite of the difficulty actually, but because of it. They make choices to look after themselves. They make choices that build their resilience. And the parent who has the resilience, who committed to the inner circle, often ends up with a quality of presence and steadiness that they did not have before the separation. The crisis becomes the thing that built the capacity, not because the crisis was good, but because of the choices that you make inside of it. Your children won't remember the crisis or the detail of it anyway. They will remember the person that you were during it and on the other side of it. And that person is being built right now in every ordinary decision that you make to do this well. And the outer circle may or may not change. That's outside your control. But the inner circle, the person you are, the parent you are, the home you're building, that is yours completely, whatever happens anywhere else. So keep going, not for your co-parent, no, but for the children. This is a long game. Subscribe and I will be here for it.